So last month, one of my uncles died. He was the husband of my father's youngest sister, and he died at the age of 98. He and my aunt would walk every day in the neighborhood. They'd walk a mile or two, and they went to the gym twice a week and were very active in their church right up until the time of his death. And one of my favorite memories of him was the time he told a story about being deployed to London for the D-Day buildup. And so he was deployed a number of months before this happened as a civilian air traffic controller. And so here he is on this large base, and the barracks, lots of barracks, rows and rows of barracks, and no soldiers. And this went on for a number of months. But eventually, there was this big buildup of vehicles and aircraft and ships and soldiers moving into the area. In fact, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were deployed from the base where he was stationed. And since he was a civilian, he wasn't a military man, he was often teased mercilessly by these army guys in particular for being a civilian. But what really touched me about the story is that he said I guess the D-Day invasion was delayed a few times, and so the soldiers were restless. Here they were sitting on this base in London with nothing to do. But eventually, hundreds of thousands of them, if not millions of them, were deployed. And he broke down in tears as he said, you know, my biggest regret is that I did not pray for those young men as they were being deployed, and many of them probably died on that day. So that gives you a little sense of my uncle's character. When my sister sent photos of the funeral last week, I noticed that his youngest son wasn't in the photos. And so I asked my sister, hey, where's our cousin? Why wasn't he there? And she said, well, there's a story of estrangement. He's been estranged from the family for a few years, and evidently he blames his parents for all of his unhappiness. The irony is that he is a family and marriage counselor. So as a monastic, we're advised not to be involved in the affairs of our family. But when I heard about this story, something stirred in me, and I thought, I have to reach out to him. I have to say something to him. And so I thought to share the letter that I wrote to him in case it might be of benefit to someone else. So I've left out the names. Dear cousin, while I feel sad that your father is no longer with us, I find it easy to rejoice that he had such a long and healthy and productive life. I remember him as a very kind man, a very religious man, a man of principle, gentle in speech and quiet integrity. And I send my condolences for your loss. When my sister shared some photos from the funeral, I noticed that you weren't there, and I asked her what was going on, and she said there's a long-standing estrangement. And so I thought to write you. I have no idea what your childhood was like, but what I've come to over the years is that our precious life is so short, much too short and precious and fragile to spend even a minute holding on to old resentments and grudges against people who did their best to help us, like our parents. Sure, our parents had their own foibles from their own deep family traumas and dysfunction and wounding, don't we all? It's part of the human condition as far as I can tell. Parents may be far from perfect, but they gave us this precious life that we often take for granted. It's easy to feel entitled, like everything should be perfect for us from day one, but think for a moment what shaped their lives and their personalities. Our parents grew up during the Great Depression with hardly enough to eat and wear. They were coming of age during the Second World War as first-generation Americans. Did you know that Grandpa Frank saw his own father blown up by dynamiting tree stumps? I often wonder how that influenced his life as a man and as a father. I remember he was very strict and had quite a temper. And I wonder what stories and traumas led to our grandmother's mental health condition, not to mention the stories and history from your father's side of the family, which I know nothing of. So I hope and pray that you will think more about the kindness of your mother and father, the kindness that they showed you, rather than any slights you feel you may have endured growing up. After all, your mother carried you in her womb for 9 months and fed you with her own flesh and blood. What a gift. She risked the pain of childbirth to bring you into the world and then cared for your needs night and day for many years, in addition to other responsibilities. She fed you and washed you, cleaned up after you, and protected you from any harm. And she taught you how to hold a fork and a spoon, to say please and thank you. She taught you many things, most importantly about the value of love, even if it wasn't perfect, unconditional love in your eyes. She and your father gave you the best of what they had. They made sure you had a good education, some religious instruction, opportunities, and good human values like kindness and honesty, which I'm sure you carry to this day. My own mother was extremely self-centered as a gambling addict, precipitated by the loss of her own mother at the tender age of 14. And yet she and I came to such a beautiful mutual love for each other, an appreciation and respect for each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I wish this for you and your mother too. I don't know what your spiritual values and beliefs are, and I do respect your process, but I've included a link below of a simple, straightforward meditation on forgiveness from the Buddhist tradition that I have found to be a good tonic to soften and moisten the heart that is frozen in time. I feel I wasted so many years blaming my parents for their shortcomings, and with age I have regretted that lost time. So I offer this not to interfere in your life and business, but as one human being to another, simply wishing to support the flow of genuine love, integrity, and respect among people. I hope you will receive this email as a gift from me, not as any kind of criticism or judgment. That's not my intention. Rather, I share this out of a knowledge that love is a powerful and liberating force for good, for us personally and for the world. One of my favorite quotes is from the Dalai Lama that says, "The more we are motivated by love, the more fearless and free our actions will be." I wish you genuine happiness, cousin, and hold you and your family in my prayers, whatever you choose to do with this email. Your cousin. So the forgiveness exercise is one by Jack Kornfield that's found on YouTube, and it's the forgiveness in 3 directions, where first you think about the many ways in which we have hurt or harmed others, betrayed or abandoned them, and caused suffering knowingly and unknowingly. The second is we have also hurt and harmed ourselves, betrayed and abandoned ourselves, and caused suffering, knowing and unknowingly. And then finally, we seek forgiveness for the many ways that others have hurt and harmed us in this life, betrayed and abandoned and caused suffering knowingly and unknowingly. And yeah, we can include the link. It's a very beautiful practice.